Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, August the 9th, the 221st day of the year. There are 144 days left in 2022. Just want to say something because it just struck me that music, that introductory music that you hear when we come on the show, it's called Going Coastal. And it's music by Jones and Company, Cheryl Jones being the lead. Cheryl was one of our first guests on TWT, and we should have her back. But that's her music, and we appreciate it very, very much. So welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom, brought to you by the Best Girl Consulting Firm. Next week, believe it or not, we will celebrate our 100th episode. 100 episodes. Who would have thunk it, right? Thanks to you out there who have been kind enough to come on as our guests, those of you in the chat and those of you who watch, listen, but don't want your name called out or prefer to remain anonymous. If you look at those questions that we have up there, those are the questions we're going to be asking all of you in the chat next week. We hope you prepare your answers, and we've got several people that have been emailing us saying that, hey, they're going to participate in this, and so we look forward to it. Think of what you want to ask, who on the panel you want to ask it of, and next week it'll be your turn. You may have an idea about a subject we've discussed, questions for the person who discussed it, but the 100th is your opportunity. Our G-list guest today is Khary Allen Lee. He has arisen as one of the most in-demand saxophonists, educators, composers, and multi-instrumentalists of his generation. He has performed and recorded with such luminaries as Ellis Marsalis, Aretha Franklin, Dr. John, Branford Marsalis, Terrence Blanchard, Dee Dee Bridgewater, Stevie Wonder, and many, many more. We look forward to our discussion today. Currently, Khary was recently chosen to become the Auburn University Daniel F. Breeden Eminent Scholar in Residence for the Arts and the Humanities. We look forward to that discussion. This edition of Tuesday with Thom, of course, is sponsored by our partners, the Best Girl Consulting Firm. Best Girl has been providing customized solutions to executive issues for 34 years. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Solution that fits your needs. Let me just clarify something. Lachelle Law Vaughn. Lachelle's on here this morning, and she says she's excited about the show today. This is what she requested in her comments for the 100th episode. And the 100th episode is next week, Lachelle. I'm sure you got that right, and I probably got it wrong. But we look forward to having you, and if you want to ask something today, go right ahead. We'll look forward to talking with you. Let's get to our roundtable regulars and introduce Barbara Wallace Edwards and Michael Walker. Barbara Wallace Edwards is a Mobile, Alabama native, currently living in Birmingham, and she has many, many adventures between shows. Barbara, how are you?
Way to put it, Thom. Good morning, Thom. I'm doing well, and how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. Life's good. I can't complain.
Very good. I
sent out a post yesterday of the sunrise, and a lot of people got excited about it, and it was a beautiful thing.
It should be a postcard, Thom. I saw that photo, and it was absolutely beautiful. I think several people commented it was breathtaking. It really was. I looked at it and longed to be there on the water with you. So it was really nice.
I woke up, I was sitting in the living room, and I just happened to look out the window, and it's like, oh my goodness.
What a view.
So I ran and got my phone, and actually shot it through the window.
Wow.
And I do that some mornings.
It was perfect. It was a perfect photo. So those that haven't seen it, they need to go to your Facebook page and actually look for that because it was really, really a nice view.
So Lachelle Law Vaughn is your cousin.
She is. Yes, she
Oh,
is.
okay.
Good morning, Michelle.
It just said hello to her beautiful cousin Barbara.
I love her. I love
First,
her
I
dearly.
thought she was talking to me, but then I knew I wasn't her cousin. But the beautiful part, I figured she got that right. But good morning, Michelle. So, Barbara, what's been happening with you in the last week?
Well, Tom, I am having a time of my life. I have been babysitting for the last week. My niece and her husband,
Michael?
Kadea. No, not Michael. Not babysitting Michael. I am babysitting my great nephews. My niece and her husband, Jasmine and Cadell Wright, are celebrating their 15th wedding anniversary. So they have been out of town celebrating. And I'm here taking care of their two boys, a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old. And as I was saying before we actually aired, that the 13-year-old, he is quiet, studious. He's a football player, but he's one of those that, he just keeps to himself. The 9-year-old, on the other hand, has been he's been following me around all week. And, he wants me to play games with him. And he's interested in arts and theater and cooking. And so he's been helping me. He's been my sous chef in the kitchen all week, recommending meals and menus for the meal. He wants to cook things for his brother. We've had a ball. I've been taking him back and forth to football practice. And the 9-year-old has Meet the Teacher Day today. So I am been a parent for the week, and I've thoroughly enjoyed spending time with them. It's been great.
So are you meeting the teacher today?
I am meeting the 4th grade teacher with Kyrie today. So we're looking forward to that.
That's great. That sounds good. All right. So what else you got for us?
That has really consumed my time for this week. I'm hoping I've been recording of several things that I haven't had a chance to watch on TV. The Stellar Awards actually aired on Sunday night. I want to say congratulations to Pastor Mike McClure Jr., who's resident here in Birmingham, pastors a church here at the Rock City Church. And I think he actually won 4 Stellar Awards at the Stellar presentation on this past weekend. So truly proud of him.
Okay. Well, let's get Michael on here and see what he's talking about. Good morning, Michael Walker. How are you, buddy?
Good morning, TG. I'm doing well. Good morning to you, Barbara, my new babysitter.
Good morning.
I hope you're doing well also. I just like to say they didn't have babysitters that looked like you when I required them. I probably would have enjoyed it much better.
I knew you'd have a comeback on that.
I'm sure.
You know how we roll, Thom.
I hear you. What's happening with you, Michael?
Well, we got a lot of things going on this morning. I got 3 things I want to touch on briefly. The first thing is the new Inflation Reduction Act that was signed and approved by the Senate and will move over to the House. And once it's signed there and approved, it will go to President Biden's desk for a signature. But what it will do, most importantly, it will continue the subsidies and expand them through the year 2025 for people that are on Obamacare. And without that, 13 million people would have seen their premiums rise by more than 50%.
Wow.
So that's going to be a lifesaver for people that have Obamacare or what's really known as the Affordable Care Act. The other thing I want to touch on
before you go on, can I just so the Affordable Care Act, I know there was a big effort to try and get rid of it. Is it safe?
Well, Thom, I'm not going to say it's safe, but I would say probability is probably here to stay because it's law. And as you know, a former president talked about repeal, replace, and they never did anything. So from that aspect, I think so. I think the real crux of it is how long will the subsidies be in place? Because that's what's helping people enroll, because insurance rates are going up. And for a lot of people, it's unaffordable, especially in this time of inflation and premiums are rising all across the board, whether it's property and casualty or whether it's life and health, those premiums are going up. And for people that are on Obamacare, they really need the subsidies. I've been able to help people that was without insurance get enrolled with Obamacare, and they got a break of about, say, $600 on a plan that would have cost them $800. So they ended up paying maybe $200 a month or $150. So that's what's important from that standpoint. So we have to figure out a way to continue to provide those subsidies.
And at affordable rates.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's great.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention is about two other people. Former President Donald Trump stated that his Mar-a-Lago home was under siege by the FBI yesterday. Fortunately or unfortunately, he wasn't home during that time. However, they were looking for classified documents that probably should have gone to the archives or have been kept there in Washington, D.C., which would be a federal crime. And that is the reason why the FBI and the Department of Justice were able to get a search warrant to go in looking for them, because they were thought to be where they were looking. So we'll see how that unfolds, but that doesn't bode well for the former president, especially with that mounting and what's going on in Georgia. There's been a lot of former prosecutors that have said they felt like Georgia would be the first one to indict the former president, and they feel like he will be indicted. And I think what's ironic in all of this is that he is still leading in the polls to be nominated to represent the Republicans in 2024 if he were to run. I do not understand that, but I'm just stating this facts. I'm the messenger. Don't ask me to explain that. I cannot explain that. It's just what it is.
Yeah, that's strange.
And the other thing that I find ironic is at the same time, and Barbara, unfortunately, you're not here, but there's a new ad out about your favorite running back, Herschel Walker, number 34. And this is what we talked about on the show before, that as it got closer to the election, you'll see more and more things come out. Someone did an ad with Herschel's former wife where she's talking about he held the gun to her head and said he would blow her brains out. And she's talking about the evil that was in his eyes and stuff. And, I told you guys it was going to come. And so now it's here. It hit the airwaves this past weekend.
Yeah, but that may have been one of his multiple personalities. That wasn't really Herschel, as he speaks of himself in the third sense.
Well, that's probably the best explanation they can come up with.
Yeah, you're right.
Damn, Herschel.
Yeah.
So
that can be damning, even from the standpoint that she is here talking about it.
Right.
And it's not like he has any court documents to refute that happening, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It'll be one thing to be charged with domestic violence and you go to court and you're acquitted and found not guilty. You can always say they were trumped up. But in this particular incident, nothing like that occurred, and she is now talking.
And I shared with you all an article, I think, that had been written by Marcus Lattimore. If you guys haven't had a chance to read that, go back and look at it. It talks about his perspective of, what is happening with Herschel from a football player's perspective, a very high profile football player. He talks about how he thinks, Herschel is not living in reality. He's been used to living in this secluded world, and, he's been a superstar, and, everybody loved him. And so he's got nothing but love from people in the past. And now, he's reality is setting in, and he really doesn't know how to handle it. So, he said that Herschel needs a lot of prayer, and he probably needs to go ahead and just drop out of the race, but we don't see that happening.
Well, I read that article, Barbara, just before the show started.
Right.
And I certainly understand what Marcus Lattimore is talking about. Thom and I have had those sidebar conversations that Herschel has been used to being Herschel, meaning that, he's been codified and cuddled and he could do no wrong as long as he was carrying the rock for UGA and, winning the Heisman Trophy. As long as he stayed in that lane, he was okay.
Right.
But now he stepped out of that lane.
Absolutely.
And it's open season. So that's the problem. And there comes the rub of the whole situation. And, his supporters, his team, they are trying to prop him up, but it's only so much you can do. Sometimes you got to give people something to work with. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I don't know. I don't think Herschel was prepared for what is coming or what has happened, to be honest.
No.
I agree with you. I think when you've been a sports star, in this case a football star, and Herschel was as big as they came. At some point, you have to step outside of that. And for a lot of people, especially people who have been at the very top like Herschel, it's just difficult to do because everywhere you go, people are wanting to be with you. They want to be up with Herschel. Herschel is great. Herschel is this. Herschel is that. And it's a tough call. You have to. I certainly am not saying I was on a level with Herschel or anything like that, but I recognized at some point I had to step outside of the football image. I had to know who Thom Gosson was, as opposed to Thom Gosson, the athlete, the football player.
And most athletes don't have a problem making that distinction, Thom. And I think that's the problem with Herschel. He never learned to make a distinction between those two things: Herschel Walker, the football player, and the real Herschel Walker. So he's living in that, like I said, that la la land world where everybody loves him. He just, there was no one said anything negative about him, and those that did, he just dismissed them. And now the majority of the ones who are saying negative things about him, there's no way to dismiss it. There's no way to disqualify what they're saying. It's all true. None of that is made up. So you don't have what happened on the football field to defend it.
You see it often. The kid from Alabama that crashed a car out in Las Vegas.
Yes.
He's going 50 miles an hour. There's nothing in the world that could make me go 150 miles an hour.
Right.
But when you feel like you're on this pedestal level, it becomes tough. You have to learn to step outside of it and to learn that these people loved you when you were playing sports, and some of them may love you now, but you've got to figure out who you are and where you should be. And there was nothing in his background that should have told him he could run for Senate.
So true.
Maybe if he had run for Congress, because it's every 2 years and it's a little bit, but for the United States Senate, I don't think so.
Well, not only that, Herschel has never really been involved in politics. And what I mean by that, if you have not run for a political office, but you've worked within a party and been in leadership and understand how it works and the nuances of it, then you're better prepared to take that leap. And you've built up capital, political capital from service. So you have the right people from the get-go to kind of nurture you and carry you through. He never did that before. And so a lot of things, and like I said, what I kind of experienced that brief moment when he attended our convention, the people around him, they didn't want to tell him no, in other words. When it was time for us to go in and begin the show, and everybody was standing up there to get his autograph, and I told his campaign manager, we need to cut it short. He said, well, you tell him. You know, I'm not going to be the bad guy. You tell these people. So,
But
you know, and that's part of it. That's what happens. So.
Right.
I think you said something that was real key. One, you said the people who support you, and I'm interpreting what you said. You said the people who support him versus the people who are there for the show.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they want to be there. Oh man, you know, man, guess who I had lunch with today? I went to this thing with Herschel, and Herschel was there, and Herschel was this, that, and the other.
Yes.
But that's not the team that can get you over the top.
Right.
And I don't know the man, and I still don't understand what convinced him that this was something he could do. Other than he could, you know, he's Superman, so he can do anything.
Yeah,
but
that's what he thinks. Absolutely.
This isn't one of those things he can do.
That and his buddy, Donald J. Trump, was also behind it.
Yes.
Now, let me say this. If Herschel wins, we're all going to be slapping ourselves in the face.
Well, first of all, Thom, that's not outside the realm of possibility.
No, we know that. We know that. And we've seen it happen before.
Right now, the polls are only 3% difference.
And
that's within the margin of error.
And that's why I do not understand why people can support someone like this. They would rather put someone in that office who's totally incompetent. I mean, and it's very obvious that he's incompetent, than to, you know, vote for someone that they know will do a great job just because of party lines. I mean, that makes no sense.
That's not what happens anymore. And I was watching the news yesterday, and they were talking about some of the people who were running, and those people were selected because they believe in an ideology that, as Michael says, the former president follows. Mm-hmm. It isn't whether or not they're the best person for the job. That's irrelevant these days.
That's sad.
Yeah, it is. That's where we are.
That's
where we are. This is about who can best serve our agenda. And if so-and-so wins, he's going to be what we need him to be. Not going to have a thought of his own, because that ain't what we're putting him up there for.
but you know, and what's sad about that, Thom, I'm not even sure he could do what they want him to do, because I don't think they could even trust him to vote along the lines they want him to vote. I mean, he gets in there, and I think he's going to have a mind of his own.
I think he'll probably consult with Coach Tuberville, and they'll figure out the best things.
That's scary. Okay. And Michael, I understand he's agreed to a debate.
Yes,
is it October 14th? Is that right?
Somewhere like that. I think it's in Savannah. I've heard that it's in Savannah. There's quite a bit of negotiations going along around the terms of the debate. In other words, the rules of engagement. Who's going to ask the questions? Herschel has been doing a lot of, I guess, I won't call them press conference. Let me just say public speaking engagements where the media was not allowed to come. Okay.
What?
Yeah. So he can control the narrative, in other words, you know.
Wow.
And let me just be clear on this and be full disclosure. My critique of Herschel, or my criticism of what can be interpreted that way, has nothing to do with the fact that I'm an Auburn grad and Herschel went to Georgia. Has nothing to do with that whatsoever.
Right.
My issue is whenever an African American man or woman is in a position of leadership or thrust into a position of leadership or the spotlight, I like for them to be the best representation of themselves possible. Okay? Because whether we like it or not, all of us are judged by that person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, that doesn't happen to other races, but that happens to us.
Right.
So I would much prefer we have somebody that can hold their own in that instance. In other words, I feel like there could be some other people that we may not have as much baggage as we have here. And to be honest with you, I don't want to see Herschel used or abused or made a laughing stock. Okay. Because that is a reflection on all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Michael, you had another thing you wanted to chat about.
No, that was it. It was the
Oh,
president, it was Herschel, and it was the Reduction Act. So
okay. All right. Anything else from either one of you before we move on? No? Okay, well, let's go to Sean, and Sean has got a minute for us. Sean.
Good morning. My name is Sean Jones, and this is Got a Minute. Hello and happy Tuesday to everyone joining in with us this morning. I am giving you a minute from Cincinnati, Ohio, home of the Bearcats in the Graduate Hotel. And boy, am I excited to be here. Now, I'm pretty sure you're all wondering, well, what in the world is Sean doing in Cincinnati, Ohio, right? Right. Well, officially, I'm here on business. Unofficially, I'm here for the chili. Not only is it my first time visiting here, but it is my very first time tasting Cincinnati chili. And not only is it my first time tasting Cincinnati chili, it's my very first time having it over spaghetti noodles. Spaghetti noodles loaded with onions and cheese and more cheese. Don't worry. When I first saw it come out, I was utterly confused. But after my first bite, I will say that this is truly the official and unofficial grub of Cincinnati. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Sean Jones, and this is Got a Minute.
Thank you, Sean. Sean's great, isn't she? She is a lot of fun. Sean and Joyce were in Cincinnati since Sunday. They're on their way back now. We had a project with the University of Cincinnati, and it was Sean's first trip. You know, Sean's been with us for a couple of years now, a year and a half, and she actually had to make a presentation. She did an outstanding job. And so, Sean, we compliment you, and of course, we compliment Joyce, and we look forward to having you guys back here. So, let's move on to the G list. Hollywood has the A list, and here on Tuesdays with Thom, we have the G list, and our G list guest today is Corey Allen Lee. Corey Allen Lee is one of the most in-demand saxophonists, educators, composers, and multi-instrumentalists of his generation. He was recently chosen to become the Auburn University Daniel F. Breeden Eminent Scholar in Residence for the Arts and Humanities. As leader, Corey Allen Lee has his group called the New Creative Collective. They have released 3 albums, A New Earth, Our Great Awakening, and Conscious Evolution. He was chosen as the newest artist endorser of the family of Jody Jazz Mouthpieces. And let me just get the guy on because he's fantastic, and we're looking forward to conversating with him. Good morning, Corey.
And to you, Thom. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for being with us. So tell me about the Daniel F. Breeden Eminent Scholar in Residence in the Arts and Humanities.
Well, it's a position that's associated with the Drawn Center for the Arts and Humanities, which is housed at Pebble Hill here in Auburn. And Dr. Mark Wilson is the head of that program. And every year, a scholar, a visiting scholar, is chosen in the arts or in the humanities to be a part of the faculty and to do outreach for the Drawn Center. So that could be someone in literature one year, someone in the visual arts the next year, so on and so forth. And very serendipitously, the music department had the opportunity to choose this year. And my name came up, and circumstances were such that I was able to accept the position.
Good deal. That sounds great, man. We had the opportunity to work together on Auburn's campaign, and
Yes.
That was just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And man, I tell you, we'd get up and make a little speech, and then you'd get up and put that icing on the cake with that sax, and it was just wonderful. So I'm so glad you're back, and I look forward to actually seeing you in person and hanging out with you for a little bit. So.
Yeah, same. That was such a great experience, and especially because of how successful it was. And it's been great to see our servants, those that we sometimes call leaders, but the servants here in the town of Auburn, and the servants in the university, really uh, accomplish the goals that we all set out to accomplish. Things are really looking beautiful here. They're really working very well, and the levels of integrity feel high, and that is heartening. So I'm glad to be here. I'm glad for us to be able to hang some more, Thom, and to do some more work together.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. So what's it like working with Ellis Marsalis and Terrence Blanchard and Aretha Franklin and Stevie Wonder, and over the years? I mean, that's a heck of a I don't even know what you call it. It's a heck of a something, but
Yeah.
man,
Yeah,
what's it been like?
transformational experiences, the experiences that I'm still receiving the gifts from. Uh, One of the things I think that is one of the keys to our development as individuals, and also in our communities, is that apprenticeship model. Going to school is very
Mm,
nice and very important, but
mm,
I think through time, being at the feet of masters has been the primary means of transmission
mhm.
of knowledge, of wisdom, of the reality and the energy of mastery. So I'm humbled to have been at the feet of some of those people, to have stood next to them, to have rubbed shoulders and elbows, to learn with them, to watch them learn, to watch them be, to watch them express the levels of mastery that they've attained, to have been present when the spirit was working through them as well. And it's marked me in a significant, highly significant way. And I'm uh, honored also to carry that forward and to transmit it as an educator, as a performing artist, as a composer. I think that, again, that's the way that it has always happened.
You can always, at least in my case, I can go back and name those individuals who were very instrumental in
Mhm.
how I get to sit here today,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
just how they not only inspired me but gave me advice that, again, is responsible for my being here having this conversation with you.
Mhm. Yes.
You have to be very thankful for that and
Yes.
recognize the blessing that
Yes.
it
Yes.
was. I,
You
I
talk
had
about
a,
standing on the shoulders of giants. That's a
there you go.
real, it's a real thing.
There you go. There you go. Let's get Michael and Barbara on here, and we'll come back. Barbara.
Good morning, Curry. How are
Good
you this
morning.
morning?
I'm great. So great to see
Michael.
you all, Barbara, Michael.
So
Good
Great to
glad
be
to
morning.
here
have you
with you.
with us today. And
It's an honor and a privilege.
I have had an opportunity to actually hear you perform at several of the Auburn fundraisers, and as well as in Birmingham at the Alice Stevens Center when you were with the Marcellus Jazz Orchestra here last year. You were
Oh, great.
phenomenal
You were there.
talent.
Oh, I'm sorry
Yes,
I
I
didn't get a
was
chance to talk to you
there.
then.
Yes, I was there. You're absolutely wonderful. But our viewers always like to hear about your background, the background story. Tell us about your upbringing, where you're from. I know you received your degree from Auburn University, but who was your first musical influence? What made you pick up that saxophone the first time, and how did you get into the music industry?
Well, I've had a handful of very important influences that were a part of my family. So I did
Okay.
most of my growing up here in Tuskegee and in Auburn. Um, I've been reconnecting with my maternal line, My grandmother was a pianist and organist, Tuskegee University Choir under William Dawson.
Wow.
And her mother was the dean of women at Tuskegee for 30 years. And along with my great aunt, they taught everybody in Tuskegee how to play the piano.
Wow.
So that includes Lionel Richie and all the Commodores and all those people. So my mom's youngest brother, my Uncle Dave, who's a great composer, multi-instrumentalist, engineer. He lives out in LA. They got him right out of high school to be in the Mean Machine, to be in the backing band with the Commodores.
Wow.
So I grew up as a babe in arms at those shows.
Yes.
And as a child, watching my Uncle Dave. When Lionel went solo, he was co-writing those first hit songs and playing a lot of the instruments on the records.
Cool.
Wow, that is cool.
David Cochran. And then my father was a great lover of music, and he instilled in us an awareness of the healing powers of music. He was a Vietnam veteran, a recon Marine, and he would say often that music was the thing that saved him. So he's a self-taught musician. He was a Renaissance man. He was a carpenter, an electrician, a builder of houses, a farmer. He would say, I'm a thespian as well. But then, of course, Thom is our resident thespian.
Right.
I'm a thespian. It would just go down the list. He was a warrior, obviously,
Right.
soldier, and just had an amazing mind, a photographic memory for numbers and information. He was a man who would quote from the Bible, and then quote Rudyard Kipling, and then quote from Khalil Gibran.
Wow.
So those were some of my great influences. Their family, my father, again, my Uncle Dave. All my mother's brothers and sisters played instruments. My grandmother, Annette West Cochran.
Wow.
And so now we're here, all right?
Yes,
There's
yes.
the short story.
Awesome.
There's been a lot of other people along the way who played key roles in my development. And having been here at Tuskegee, Auburn, I got my degree in music ed at Auburn University. I went on to the Berklee College of Music, and I got what was called then an artist diploma, because at the time they did not have a master's degree. So I got an artist diploma in professional music, which just gave me the opportunity to do a lot of different things. And I studied with the great Bill Pierce,
Yes.
great master saxophonist, who was the sort of elder statesman in Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers. When Wynton and Branford came into the band, and then later when Terrence Blanchard and Donald Harrison came into the band.
Wow.
He was one of my major mentors there. He and the great Walter Beasley.
Yes.
He's especially more so on the smooth jazz scene, but just a great man, a great musician across the board. And then I went to New Orleans, where my mother's father is from.
Okay.
And there I got my master's at the University of New Orleans. And I got my doctorate, I like to say, on the bandstand. And in the streets of New Orleans, working with the great Treme Brass Band.
Yes.
Working with Delphio and Delphio Marsalis. Working with people like Terrence Blanchard and with Dr. John. And, so many others.
That is awesome. Awesome.
You can't walk down the street in New Orleans in that I'm gonna call entertainment district and not hear music.
Right.
Pretty much coming out of every one of those
everywhere
businesses or restaurants or night spots. It's just incredible. And it really, really is. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a place. It used to be more so. It's changing a lot now, but it was a place where music was a part of the culture, not just a commodity that's bought and sold, but a part of people's everyday lives, our celebrations and observances. So in the poorer parts of the city, young people coming up there's the example of the criminals as a way to try to attain some higher level of prosperity. There's the example of the athletes, but in New Orleans, there was the example of the musicians as well, and they were looking sharp, and they were traveling the world,
All right.
and they were working. They were community leaders. Um, and so, yeah, that really is a part of what makes the place special. Is the community. It's music as a part of the culture, music as a part of people's everyday lives. You know, something that everybody would do. It's
Right.
like that in other places, like in some parts of Brazil, or you talk about the continent. I lived in Africa for 2 years, where music is just a part of everyone's life. Everybody dances and sings.
Yes.
That's
Cool.
great. That's good. Michael?
Well, good morning, Kari, and thanks for being with us. And let me be one of the first to congratulate you on the many accolades and what a been an illustrious career. I studied philosophy at Auburn, and I noticed you did an essay on Hero of the New Age.
Mhm.
Tell us what Hero of the New Age is and what was the impetus behind you doing that.
Well, the essay, which is now 10 years old, it's time for me to revisit and revise it. But the idea is the artist as a hero of the new age. That is the artist as the artists of our society, as those who would play a central role in bringing us into higher states of being, individually and collectively. The artist is one, and I use the term very carefully, because there are those who are called artists who are not actually artists in the highest sense. They are entertainers. You know, a lot
Hmm.
of the pop musicians or pop personalities, popular personalities, they're called artists, but no, I would not call them that. So the true artist, the artist in the highest sense of that word, of that title, will be the one who forges new ground, who through their own endeavor and their connection to a higher power finds a way. Oh yeah, I'll take that as an exclamation point there. Find
That was
Yes.
mine.
Helps us to find higher versions of ourselves, to find clearer paths in connection to the divine. Helps us to see ourselves. If we are not able to see ourselves, we're not able to. Um, that is seeing ourselves, seeing where we've been, where we are, and what we might possibly become. Then we're not able to become, I would say. Um, I'll open it back up to you on that one.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that explanation, and it helped me to understand that. I'm sure our audience got that as well. Um, the other question I'd ask you is, I see you photograph with the saxophone a lot. So, is that the instrument you resonate with the most? And if so, why? Is the saxophone your personality? Is that you so much?
No, it's not me. Uh, it is the tool that has one of the tools that's been put in my hand. But I realized a long time ago that if I had a body, then I would be able to make music, and that bringing capital B beauty, capital G goodness, capital T truth, bringing the energies of love, which is a mini splendor thing, as the song says. Bringing
Mhm.
those energies into the world was a part of the work that I was being called to do. And music is the greatest, that's the highest of the arts. I've thought about that a lot and tried to put music, other forms of artistic expression on an equal footing with music, but I have found that yes, music is the greatest of the arts. Sorry, Tom.
Hey, I'm not going to
Literature and
argue
of
with
course
you.
the
I'm not
dramatic
going to
arts
argue
are
with you.
there's a lot of great things that come through there, but there's something very special about music. So I realized, Michael, if I had a body, I could make music. I could help other people to make music. I could be an instrument uh, through which the higher power could work. Period. Through which the higher power could work. Through which some some soulful and sacred sounds might come into the world that might be a part of our betterment, because we need all the
Yes.
help we can get right
Yes, we
now. You know,
do.
we're moving through a time of great transformation. And so touching on that idea again of the artist as hero of the new age, the arts as a key to our success. Yeah, we see that what the arts do for us as individuals and as varying levels of collective. You know, the arts help us to be better because it takes a lot of work to truly endeavor in the arts. But even a cursory exposure makes us better. Where there's so
Mhm.
many studies about people, students in the arts and music and in dance and in the visual arts, and how it augments their ability to think, how it augments their emotional intelligence, how it augments physical um, their coordination, their physical state of being, and their story after story. Some are legend of how the arts help people to connect to
Mhm.
a higher power, to the highest power, to the divine.
Yes.
You know, so the artist as one who forges new territory in that way and goes out on the edge and brings back some very special particular gifts uh, that are given to the artist by the higher power for the masses, for the community.
Speaking of the
Right.
community, what's it like for you to be back in Auburn, Tuskegee area where you grew up, educated, and been away for a while? What's that like?
Well, it's a full circle experience, which is very it's it's humbling to actually be in the midst of, because again for me I feel a higher hand at work in my life in that regard. Um, you know, as one astute uh, observer said, it takes a whole lot of things to go right just for you to have a bad day.
Right.
So you know, I'm here at the end of my 6 7 year cycle. Uh, Solar return. I'm in the midst of my solar return, also called a birthday. Uh, and I'm here, you know, after having traveled the world
Yes.
and connecting to my family roots and receiving a plethora of gifts through that experience. We've been going and working on some of the old family homes and going through a lot of things that my grandma had held and worked through, and her mother's sisters, and just so on and so forth. Just connecting to the roots, which has
Right.
been also, Thom, empowering. To connect to our roots is a powerfully empowering experience, and I think that that's one of the things that's going to be of great benefit for us in the greater societies, connecting to our roots, connecting to the roots at the founding of this country, because there are a lot of positive things. A lot of times I feel like only the negative things are highlighted, the things that were mistakes of a kind. But there are a lot of very powerful concepts, ideas, ideals that are a part of the founding of this country. So that's been a part of my experience too, just reflecting on those things, those macrocosmic things through my microcosmic experience. So I'm thankful. I'm really thankful and thoughtful to be here. We got a lot of great music to make. I'm looking forward to working with the students. And I have a gift as an educator, I think. I
Yes.
feel that, I see that through my work over the years, which is a gift that comes through my bloodline. So I'm excited too, Thom. You know, getting a chance to hang with you great people and, you know, talk about some of these beautiful and positive things and try to raise the
We had some,
vibration a little bit. And so I'm looking
Yes.
forward to that happening in this community to an even greater degree as well.
Right.
any other questions?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm
Go ahead,
sorry.
Barbara.
I
Go
was
ahead.
going to say, degree. I know that you're back in Auburn and you're actually going to, I think, actually teaching classes or teach a class.
I will
But
be
in
teaching
addition
some
to
classes,
that, you
yes.
have upcoming performances and you
Mhm.
also offer private lessons. Can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about that and how people can find you or get information about any private lessons that you may provide and just give us some information, general
Sure.
information about all of that.
Sure. One can very quickly and easily go to my website, which is KhariAllenLee.com. Khari, not like the basketball player.
Uh-huh.
My name is quite a bit cooler, I think. Khari. Yeah, there we have it on
Yes,
screen.
yes.
ALLENLEE. And there I have information on the private lesson offerings, the private instruction offerings. But they are not just, for me, it's never solely about music. The music is a means to living a better life. So again, through endeavoring in the music, we're thinking about how we think, because the higher levels of development require us to think differently about ourselves and to think differently about who we are and what we do, what we're actually
Yes.
doing, and why we're doing it. As
Mhm.
my great teacher, Mr. Roger Dickerson, who's the teacher of Terrence Blanchard. Roger Dickerson he's in his mid going on late 80s now.
Wow.
He's a two-time Pulitzer Prize nominated composer and a master educator, one of these
Wow.
who has a true gift of bringing out that which is individual within the individual.
Mhm.
Education in the highest sense of the word.
Yes.
He would talk about intent. So
Wow.
that's one of the key components of my work with individuals and groups. It's helping us to become more aware of that, of our
Mhm.
intent,
Mhm.
and through that to then become better in every regard. Not just music, but just
Right.
better
Overall.
people, because
Yes.
I'm saying this, Barbara. If you can do this, if you can do this,
Right.
you can be a better person. You can be
Yes.
a better member of your family. You can be a better
Mhm.
member of your community, and vice versa. Music for me is she's showing me about life. And
Yes.
when I'm looking at my life, the higher power is showing me how to deal with music as well.
Yes.
It's vice versa.
Oh, wow. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for
Okay.
that question.
Michael, you good?
Well, yeah, I wanted to ask Kyrie a question. Um, when you say some people are entertainers and not artists, what category would you put Marvin Gaye in? When I think about his song "What's Going On," as he talked about what was happening in the world, where would you put Marvin Gaye in that? Would you say that he was an artist or entertainer, or was he a little of both?
I appreciate that question, Michael, because I think it helps us to explore the reality of continuums as well, when we're oftentimes in situations where there's an effort to make things cut and dry, to make them not necessarily cut and dry, no, black and white, to create hard dichotomies, to create
Mhm.
hard divisions between opposing ideas. When I think that actually, in a lot of times, there's a more of a continuum. So someone like Marvin Gaye, I think, yeah, and I do this as well. I'm not only, just because I endeavor towards a, a higher expression of artistry, doesn't mean that I don't also entertain. Marvin Gaye, surely that music that he made, What's Going On, that's for me some music that through which we see some of that capital B absolute beauty. Because I think that beauty, I once thought that it was in the eye of the beholder, but I've come to find that there is an absolute goodness, there is absolute beauty, there is absolute truth. People talk about the truth being relative. I think actually that's not actually the case. So through him was manifest some absolute beauty and some truth, uh, some things that came through, which I'm sure he would look back on it. And Mr. Dickerson we would laugh about this too. He would say, people would come to him and say, Roger, how did you do this and how did you do that in your music? What were you thinking about? And he would say, oh, did I do that? And he would just kind of laugh, just through the process of endeavoring, through the work, through the creative process, things can come in that when we really look at them, we say, oh, man, I mean, I know that my name is on it, or I was standing up there holding the saxophone, or I had my pen to the paper, but something else was happening. We talk about these liminal experiences where we find ourselves looking at watching it happen through us. Everybody's heard of the Michael Jordan story where he's playing and he hits the 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 3-pointers in a row, and he says, "Man, I was just watching myself do it." That's a sort of a liminal experience. I know that John Coltrane is a great, one of the greats who endeavored in a very pronounced way such that he would have those kind of liminal experiences where the spirit is working through him and he's just watching it. I think that happened also with Marvin Gaye and what he was doing with What's Going On. My father was coming back from the Vietnam War when that album dropped, as we say.
Wow.
When that album came out, he was telling the stories of those people who were involved in something that we still don't, I think, totally understand. I think that there are still going to be insights in decades to come and new pieces of information that, though difficult to deal with, are going to help us to that are going to provide new insights and also going to be new lessons. We're going to be learning some hard lessons from some of those past experiences. But there were the arts again. There was the artist and the higher power working through the arts to help us to deal, to help us to heal, to help us to figure out what was actually real.
Right.
my father got back and he would talk about, man, he came back from the war and he said he was a recon Marine. So this was a small group of guys that would get, I know we're coming to the end of time here, that would get dropped in the middle of the hottest zones. So he saw a lot of very, very difficult things. And he said he got back and he couldn't talk to anybody for a year because nobody that he was around knew what his experience was really about. They had not seen that the death and destruction and the darkness and the ugliness that he had dealt with. But the music was there for him.
Yes.
The music helped him to heal. The music told him that what was going on. It told him what was happening, brother.
Yes.
You know, it told him that it told him about the reality of God. That's what Marvin is talking about in that music as well, isn't it? He told the music showed him how to be holy, how to be whole again. Yeah. So, you know, but again, Marvin still was a great entertainer as well as an artist. The consummate artist was expressed from time to time. And we give thanks for that.
Yes.
Thank you.
I hope that you will publicize or make sure that we all know where you're going to be doing what in the community, because I know that people will want to come see you and hear you. And I just got one more thing, and I know we're running out of time, but you know, I think we talk about entertainers and so on and so forth. But I think there is it's like the acting business. People want to be in it, but they don't understand the business part of it. The business part is not fair. The business part is about business. The business part is there to make money.
Yeah.
And it's when young people ask me about it, I don't want to discourage them to talk about the business part of it, but the business part of it is huge, and it doesn't treat everybody the same.
No, it sure doesn't. And just a couple of things. First, I don't mean to denigrate the entertainer, because all of these things are a part of our human experience. Sure. And we need all of them. And also, Barbara, you asked about my work as an educator. One of my great friends, a great saxophonist named Jason Marshall, he emphasizes the importance, of the vocational aspect of our work as musicians.
Yes.
That means that we have to deal with putting in the work and being
Right.
professional. So I'm
Yes.
talking about that with students as well. Being aware of the business aspects.
Yes.
Because where we're not aware, others will be aware, and they will, though what they create may be of lesser power and ultimately lesser value, they may have first place in line.
Yes.
Yeah. So for us to be, I think it's also about being well-rounded people, yeah, and being as aware as we can. And even though I'm not a master in the business realm, my awareness of it, it gives me great appreciation for those who are.
Yes.
People who are great business people. And also, it takes a community. We have to do it together. So I know that there are certain things that I can do that people whose business acumen is very, very high are not able to do, whose specialty is in business. So I can say, look, how can we work together? I can put something down. I can sit down for you in a minute and create a new piece of music. How can you help me get it to the people?
Right.
Yeah, so that we can take this thing higher. Yeah, we need each other. We need each
I
other.
love it. That's right.
That is great. Well, thank you so much, Kari. Let me tell our audience, it's Kari. It's Khari. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, Kari
Yeah,
Allen Lee.
they call it khaki.
We'll be doing a performance. Oh yeah, Kari. No. Kari. That's how my mom says it. Kari. My father says that he knew the name soon as I came into the womb. He said, "Oh yeah, his name is going to be Kari." Kari is a Swahili word that means kingly.
Yes.
So I do my best to carry that energy and to make kings and queens of all those that I meet. And I'm here in service, and I'm thankful to be here. We'll be in September doing a performance. Dr. Jeremy Samoleski, young Jacob Shin, cello prodigy. We're going to be doing a variety of music, some things that I've composed and arranged, things by the great Ellis Marsalis. We mentioned him earlier. So that's one of the upcoming things. We're going to be doing all sorts of things over the next several months, Providence willing, always Providence willing. So I look forward to all of that and to seeing you all out there, and maybe we'll get a chance to talk again as well.
Yes.
And feel free to let us know where you're doing what, and we'll publicize it here on the show.
Wow, thank you.
I think the people would love to. I've seen you, and it's a treat, and I'd like for other people to experience it as well.
Yes.
Thank you, Thom. It's an honor and a privilege again, a pleasure to be here with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Our pleasure.
So, closing commentary, or as a So remember, next week is our 100th show, 100 shows. That means it's your turn. Antley, Laurie, Becky, Anthony, Laurie, Faye, Tracy, Big D, George, Butch, Paula, Pat Eddington, and others. If I didn't call your name, let me know. We'll make sure your name is called next Tuesday. We will have questions for you. You can have questions for us. It's going to be an audience participation show, and we're looking forward to it. So I will see you next week for number 100. And that is how I see it on this August the 9th in the year 2022. That's our show for today. Thank the audience. We appreciate you always. Thank Michael and Barbara. Thank our G-list guest, Kari Allen Lee. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc., Emily Hedrick, the communicator, Sean Jones, the organizer and producer of the show, Got a Minute. And remember, enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.